Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Miss Couture. And in today's episode, we are doing a kettle dye technique. What I'm attempting to do is create layers of colors in the pot. And I'm trying to create a fade through 4 different skeins of yarn. So we're going to be using my classic sock. So we're going to be using my classic sock yarn base, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so today I want to try out the same experience I did a while ago with the fiber that I was dyeing directly in the kettle, but this time we're going to do it with yarn. So I'm going to be using my classic sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. I'm going to be adding some acid in this pot, so the citric acid. So since I'm going to have 4 skeins, which is roughly a pound, so roughly 454 grams of yarn, I will be using a full tablespoon for that. And you know what, I think since I want the yarn and the dyes to strike faster, I think I'm going to use a little bit more than that, maybe 2 tablespoons. Okay, so that way we already have the acid. I already turned on the pot because it just takes longer in a pot for the water to reach the 95 degrees Celsius we want to bake the yarn. And as usual, when using dry powder, we are going to be wearing a respirator. Okay, let's start with this side. Oops. So here I'm adding the color Champagne from Dharma Acid Co. We will have the link in the description box below. Okay. Maybe a tiny bit more dye on the sides. Okay. Oopsie-doo. And I'm adding now duckling from the same company, so Dharma Acid Trading Co. And the reason I'm doing one layer after the other is to attempt at least to create this fade of color. Now the thing that you've probably noticed is that I have dry skeins. The reason being that I want to try to capture all the layers of color separately. I try to have the color like contact each other, like contaminate each other, but it's mostly so that the color penetration won't be as intense that way. So the yellow will go and penetrate a lot. However, with the layers and the fact that it's dry, it will be a little slower than what you would normally see. Now we're adding a ballerina pink. You've probably noticing that I'm actually using almost the same color that we used for the fiber that we did last week. I believe it was posted. Yeah, so it was posted last week. And, so it's the same idea as last week. It was to create a fade of color within the skeins, and we shall see how we do it. So now we're adding the final layer of color. So it is our sea spray. So this one I wanted to you add it because sea spray is a bluish greenish color, so I think it will mix well with the color that we already have in the kettle, and we shall see if this technique works good for what I want to do. Spoiler alert, you probably will see me a little bit later in the video being like, nope, I don't like it. And I think it's because I've made a few mistakes when it comes to this technique. I probably put too much acid in the first place. I'm using superwash yarns with color that strikes fast. So you shall see what I mean by that. All right, let's get back into the pot. So the idea I have here is to see if we can create a fade with the different layers we just created. This is really just an experimentation to see how, because you can see that the colors are well separated, probably because, but there is some pink, so it's more. Okay, I need, like, we seem to have a decent color penetration, but since it's super wash, it has struck the yarn rather quickly. So I'm just wanted to see if we could create a decent fade, but I don't think that we're creating a fade at all. We'll have to see how this goes. So we might have to troubleshoot this because the dye is already struck, but I don't think the blue went super far, and I don't think there's a whole lot of pink in the blue. Interesting. We'll let it cook and see how we feel. I might have to transfer this into an actual pan and observe what's happening, because there's no more dye in here. Okay, so there's no more. I think I'm just going to transfer the thing and I'm gonna grab a pan. Let's turn this off first. So it hasn't done what I was hoping for that color, but I think we've got something going on for me with the next one, because now you can see that the yellow and the pink did something, which was what I wanted the color to do. So, ow. Okay, so I think it's just my mistake was using sea spray, because sea spray just didn't really do nothing. Okay. It's kind of cool though. I'm going to add more yarn here. I kind of like that. It's fun. And there's absolutely no color left in that pot. I'm just wondering if I should add some dye over here, and maybe over here. So I think I'm going to add maybe oh, being difficult. I think I'm going to be adding a tiny bit of the ballerina pink on this, where I have most of the very pale blue, and maybe a tiny bit of pink over here, and a bit more of the duckling over here, just to have a better transition between the colors. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So, respirator back on. And maybe adding a tiny bit more of sea spray onto this one. Just a little bit. Okay, so the idea was not wrong, but I think where I made a mistake was to do it on superwash yarn. And okay, so those two colors work really nicely. So I feel like if I had colors that absorb slightly slower, I think we would have been fine with the idea of the gradient, well, not gradient, the fade I wanted to do. So yeah, I think if I try this again, I will use non-superwash and different dyes just to see if those two will affect the final result. So we're going to let this cook for half an hour, and then we will wash it and see the final result. Alright, so I'm not expecting necessarily a whole lot of bleeding into the bath water, simply because I didn't use that much dry powder for each layers. Even after adding a little bit, it was less than like half a gram of dry powder that we used, which is not enough to create a lot of bleeding. Now, I still need to observe this sea spray because I think it leaves a little blue tint in the bath water, so I just need to make sure that this doesn't happen too much. So a quick PSA, if you are doing color work with darker color and you're needing to block it, you could either steam block it to avoid any bleeding from the darker color to the lighter colors, or you could also use a color catcher in your bath water to ensure that the darker colors are not transferring to your lighter color. So this is something that you can do. Also use a gentle soap that is wool friendly if you're doing that, or you can also add a little acid into your in your wash bath. That you can do that as well. But just make sure. You can also just swatch and see what's going to happen with the swatch in the same condition that you would be blocking your final piece. This is another little things that you can do. So I haven't seen a whole lot of blue tint into it, and I think it's just my shadow at this point. So we're going to be rinsing it off a little bit and then adding it to the spin dryer, and we shall see the final result. And here's the final result of our fade. Failed also attempt at kettle fading. Like I mentioned earlier, I think what if I were to redo it, I would probably try to use it with most likely a non-superwash yarn to see if it helps the absorption rate for the skeins. Maybe I should try next time with 2 skeins instead of 4, but at the same time, if you want to see a nice fade, you kind of need to have more than 2. So this is food for thought for me. And with the troubleshooting we did, I think we kind of saved a fade. You can see that they go together. So and this one is definitely my favorite. It reminds me of candy and I really like it. So there is different things that I think I would do different. Probably using slower to absorb dyes. Maybe non-superwash as well would help a little bit. Yeah, so I think those are the things that I would do differently. But it was a fun experiment. I will try it again and see how it goes. If you have any questions, just let me know. If you think there's things that I could have done different, let me know in the description box, not description box, in the comment section at the bottom. And if you've liked the video, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing to the channel so we can, hi Zoe, so we can afford to have, no, that's not for you. Bye, Zoe. Okay, so I will see you very soon. Bye.